Discovery Channel.
USS Pittsburgh, a Los Angeles-class submarine, is on active deployment in the Mediterranean, what the Navy calls a med run.
Helm right, full rudder.
For 5.5 months, the sub's crew have been on their own, patrolling this strategic body of water at periscope depth or deeper. In one of their rare moments on the surface, they spot another craft closing in on their position.
Victor 11 trawler, bearing 264.
Bridge coordinator, Victor 11 is now underway, bearing 260, range 9,500 yards with a port force angle bow, appears to be coming over to table. We'll look at it.
He got underway, he's right there.
It turns out to be nothing more than a curious fishing boat.
Happens all the time.
Shots on a request fire control solution on Sierra 83, last held, bearing 219.
Submariners like to think of themselves as the elite of the U.S. Navy. Because of the small size of the submarine fleet and crews, only those who score in the top 1% of their entry tests are eligible to serve on a submarine. All sailors who go into submarines do so as volunteers.
The submarine community is the top 10% of the Navy. This is one thing that makes a person want to become a submariner. It's elite. It's not jumping out of airplanes. It's not scuba diving like the Navy SEALs, but we can get into a submarine every day. We can go out to sea, and we can come back wearing the dolphins on our chest and be proud of who we are.
There is nowhere to go.
I can do whatever I want.
You can do whatever you want.
The claustrophobic environment of the Pittsburgh is a reality the crew takes in stride.
Sierra 39.
Passageways are fairly narrow, and sometimes you have to have 3 people go by that area at one time. There's no way you can't be touching and rubbing against that person as you're going by, but that's just part of the job, and nobody really notices it.
Crowded is relative. Our forefathers on diesel boats that got to shower once every 2 weeks probably look at us and think that we're on an ocean liner.
Living close together, at first it's really weird. You can't really stretch out, real tight in your rack. You gotta respect other people's privacy as far as keeping quiet and berthing.
Some people say that, they don't like big cities because their space is being invaded and that type of thing, and we certainly don't have that problem here because you don't have a space.
I think I'm too tall for this boat.
The Los Angeles-class fast attack submarines, also known as shooters, are designed to be fast and quiet. They perform a number of different roles, including fleet support, surveillance, and precision strikes. The USS Pittsburgh is one of 62 Los Angeles-class fast attack submarines in the U.S. Navy.
Los Angeles-class submarine is the most numerous submarine in the U.S. fleet now. It carries torpedoes and Tomahawk cruise missiles.
Our class of submarine has vertical launch missiles, so we have a greater capability to conduct strike operations using Tomahawk missiles.
We also have capabilities for shooting torpedoes or shooting Tomahawks out of our torpedo tube, so very advanced warfighting capabilities.
A typical weapons load for a Los Angeles-class submarine would include 12 Tomahawk cruise missiles, 1 in each vertical launch tube, and a combination of Tomahawks, anti-ship harpoon missiles, and Mk-48 torpedoes, all stored in the torpedo racks. To launch a Tomahawk, the sub has to slow down to about 5 knots and come up to periscope depth, 60 feet or less underwater. A missile launch makes an incredible amount of noise, so they must be absolutely sure that the sub is clear of any threat during a launch cycle. A Tomahawk fired from a torpedo tube is encased in a tube liner. If it is launched from a vertical tube, a bubble of nitrogen is released, and the missile and the nitrogen rise at the same rate. In either case, the missile never gets wet.
Our role in the nation is to support national policy, which at the present time might be control of the seas, power projection ashore.
During the NATO engagement against Yugoslav forces occupying Kosovo in the summer of 1999, the USS Pittsburgh was stationed in the Adriatic Sea off the coast of Yugoslavia. It was one of several attack-class submarines brought in to support the military operation. The precedent for that deployment was set during the Gulf War 10 years earlier, when Los Angeles-class subs accounted for 12 of the hundreds of cruise missiles launched against Iraq. In Kosovo, nearly a third of all cruise missiles launched against Yugoslavia came from the attack submarines.
The Los Angeles-class submarine is about 360 feet long. Majority of it is cylindrical. It's like a 33-foot in diameter pipe.
At 360 feet, the Los Angeles-class submarine is as long as 12 school buses. It's crammed with an astounding array of hardware, weapons, and sensors, leaving precious little room for its 140 or so human occupants. In fact, 60% of the sub is taken up by the nuclear reactor and the engine room. The back end of the boat is classified and off limits to unauthorized personnel. No cameras have ever been allowed to film in this sensitive area. The nuclear reactor, an S6G model built by General Electric, has one basic function: to generate heat to turn pressurized water into steam. The steam is used to drive a turbine generator, which powers the propeller. Because none of the sub's precious supply of oxygen is needed in any part of this process, a Los Angeles-class submarine is capable of circling the globe at least 20 times without resurfacing. The Navy has a perfect safety record with U.S.-designed submarine reactors. The Soviet Union is a different story. In the late 60s, the U.S. government was alarmed by intelligence reports showing Soviet nuclear subs were capable of extremely fast speeds, well over 40 knots. The U.S. responded by building the first fleet of Los Angeles-class submarines. What they didn't know was that the Soviets, in their pursuit of speed, sacrificed safety. The reactors were not shielded properly, making the subs lighter, but more dangerous to the men who served on them. Captain Paul Bouchon is the commanding officer, and he's responsible for every aspect of the submarine and its mission.
My role primarily is oversight, looking, watching how things are working, seeing if I see problems, trying to fix the root cause of those problems, and to train the people to do the job.
Reporting directly to Captain Bouchon is Mike Halmer, the XO, or Executive Officer.
I'm second in command, and for that, what I do is basically try to run the ship as much as possible on a daily basis so that the captain can remove himself a little bit from the daily workings of the ship, the small details, and he can concentrate on the big picture and how we're going to improve over time.
Is the pump on its way back there? Get some people, get the pump back there. Let's go.
Also reporting directly to the captain is Jack Sanzalon, the chief of the boat. The Cobb is the senior enlisted officer on the crew and acts as the liaison between the captain and the enlisted personnel. His role is crucial to a well-run submarine.
I like to think of the Cobb as the hitman, the strong man. He's the one who keeps all the enlisted guys in line. He's the one who's got to keep the big picture in mind of what the boat's actually out here to do.
I mean, if you see the chief of the boat as being the, the surrogate dad to 117 men other than the officers, that's about what it comes out to be. If there's a problem, if there's an email that somebody gets that they don't like, or there's a schedule change, and typically as I walk around the ship, I'll hear kind of like a father giving bad news to his kids. So it's challenging, but well worth it when the ship does well and you can sit back and look at the family, so to speak, and say, hey, look what you did.
The Pittsburgh is nearing the end of its mission. Before they head back to their home base in Groton, Connecticut, they have an important rendezvous to make. La Maddalena, Italy, is a small island off the northern tip of Sardinia. With its picturesque harbor and sleepy cobbled streets, it's not a place you would expect to find a nuclear-powered submarine. But in the next cove over from the local beach, there is a U.S. naval base. The primary feature of this base, and the reason why the Pittsburgh is speeding into port, is the USS Emory S. Land, a submarine tender. The Emory S. Land is one of 2 submarine tenders in the United States Navy. The other one is based in the South Pacific. They provide support for the dozens of subs on active deployment around the world. The Pittsburgh needs to take on some more food for the trip home, and also to do a little house cleaning.
They're running out of missiles in the Med right now, so we're headed back home. So they're going to take our missiles, fill the tender up, so if there's another shooter that needs replacement missiles, they can have our missiles.
The Pittsburgh is offloading some of its arsenal of Tomahawk cruise missiles to be picked up by other attack-class submarines deployed in the Mediterranean. These are conventional missiles. Los Angeles-class subs, according to the Navy, do not carry nuclear warheads.
This is the harness going down. The empty harness is going down into the torpedo room. It's got about 30 feet to go. We lower it down the torpedo room. It's on a long angular skid. That skid is then pivoted downward into the torpedo room where we'll strap a Tomahawk onto it.
Coming out the harness. Coming out the harness.
Whoa. Ain't in yet. I got it. Tighten down.
Retard, Ty. Coming up on the shipping tray.
We're going to get the ship underway approximately 10 minutes. 10 minutes till we're underway.
Hey, can you slack this line?
The missiles are unloaded, and they're now ready to head back out onto open sea.
Let's get the rig for dive wrapped up. Let's go. We can lay down below deck.
Before I submerge the ship, what I'll do is I'll finish taking all the stuff down, taking out all the devices, the gagging devices. The bridge box comes down, my radio, my GPS receiver. Once you get down to control, the ship's diving officer, which is me, will verify the ship's rigged for dive, and then we just drive down 150 feet and go about our business smartly.
Shutting the hatch. There goes the light.
Captain Austin deck, I own the water and time and space. Fathom 6,900 fathoms. Course mission, submerge the ship to 150 feet. Submerge ship, aye, sir.
A submarine dives by flooding a series of ballast tanks concealed on her underside. As the water floods into the tanks, air is forced out through upper vents. This gives the sub negative buoyancy and causes it to sink. A system of trim tanks allows the crew to fine-tune the balance of the sub until it is neutrally buoyant, so it can hover at a specific depth.
Dive.
Bending aft, decks awash.
Reveille, up all bunks.
It's a new day on board the Pittsburgh. As if the crew did not have enough to do already, every Friday the entire sub is cleaned from top to bottom in a Navy ritual called Field Day.
Good morning. Good morning. Rub-a-dub-dub, clean up the sub. That's right.
Good morning. Fine Navy Day.
Right now we're getting ready to anticipate Field Day. We've got about 20 minutes to get a cup of coffee, get a smoke, and put their cleaning clothes on and clean the sub up.
I know when dust has been born and when it dies. Where does the dust come from?
They come from the daily operation of the ship.
The dryer, the machinery, the curtains, your clothes, your hair.
It doesn't take any motivating here. You got one chief kind of shooting the breeze, another chief pretending that he's cleaning, and a first class who really is cleaning. So, I mean, that's how it goes.
They didn't show this part in the recruiter video, did they? There's a reason.
My guys are responsible for the cleanliness of the engine room, but today, straws were drawn in. I get to clean in here. I've been doing this for 10 years, and I'm still cleaning toilets.
It's time for lunch on the USS Pittsburgh. The crew stands elbow to elbow, waiting patiently for their meal in the cramped quarters of the mess hall.
Food on board submarines is very important. I can directly relate crew's morale to the food. You may think that's kind of crazy, but I can see when we had a bad meal on the ship, I could see that if, the crew's mess isn't operating where it should be, the morale of the ship is not up where it could be.
Mess specialist Daniel Spencer, although fairly new to the job, is more than qualified to talk about food on a submarine.
I've been in the Navy for almost a year. So I've been on the boats about 5 months. I normally work 12-hour shifts, 12 on, 12 off. Day watch captain during the day and me night baker at night. We serve 4 meals a day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, mid-rats. We normally serve between 70 and 80 people a meal. It's a big load to deal with. Definitely a stressful job. People can be complaining at times. You got command coming down on you because you had a bad meal or you screwed something up, something like that. You got good food, the crew's gonna be happy. You got a happy crew, command's gonna be happy. Command's happy, everything's good so far. A lot of people do pick on the food just because they've got nothing else to pick on, and you can't really do anything besides feed them. They got a full mouth and they can't really talk.
In a pint-sized kitchen, 140 meals are served 4 times a day. For an average 6-month deployment, they'll load about 50,000 pounds of food. On a nuclear-powered submarine, it's the food supply that limits the length of time it can stay out on patrol.
Storage is a big thing. It has to be stored right to where it's not in the way, but yet you can get to it when we need it. Potatoes hanging in the torpedo room. We got onions there as well. After you cooked and ate, cleaned up, you sit down, and everybody comes by and says, "Good meal, Spencer, good meal." Like, you kind of light up. Yeah, it felt good.
A lot of food means a lot of trash.
Sweat, trash, basically food.
Even something as mundane as garbage becomes a challenge on a Los Angeles-class submarine, especially one that's supposed to remain hidden.
Put weights in the bags, put weights in the cans. Nothing floats, so nobody knows where we're at when we're shooting our trash. If we shot our trash and it floated, we'd be leaving a trail and somebody would know there's a submarine here.
The rest of the sub's solid garbage is stuffed into homemade metal containers and sent down to a watery grave.
To stay stealthy, everything has to go to the bottom.
Once a sub goes underwater, day and night cease to exist. There is no sense of movement, and the steady hum of machinery is the only constant. Even the normal 24-hour day is altered. Life on board a nuclear submarine runs on an 18-hour time frame, which can be very disorienting.
The typical life on board submarine starting out in the morning, let's take a guy that got up and he has the morning watch, which we call the 6 to 12 watch. He'll typically get up around 4:30 in the morning if he doesn't choose to exercise first. Go have breakfast, relieve the watch around 5:30 in the morning, stand watch till around 11:30. Once he's done with that, he'll go probably eat lunch. From that period on, starts the countdown to his next watch, which for him will be 12 hours after that. So in between then, he may do things like maintaining his equipment, maintaining his gear. He has cleanliness responsibilities to make sure the ship is clean. Then he has personal qualifications so that he can advance to the next pay grade. And in that time period, he's got about 6 hours or so to manage his sleep.
Somewhere in their schedule, the crew manages to carve out some free time.
Now we're ready. We're ready. Simon, I have bad teeth.
The Navy requires all sailors to exercise at least 3 times a week, a unique challenge on board a submarine.
We have people that are just pioneers in finding places to do pull-ups or push-ups or sit-ups.
We make things like the weights that we shoot garbage out with, tape them up, get a bar, little things. Every little thing helps.
On a Los Angeles-class submarine, a 140-man crew has to cram themselves into a living space roughly the size of a 3-bedroom house. Captain Bouchon's quarters might not seem like much, but on the Pittsburgh, they're palatial.
Well, this is the captain's quarters, my quarters now. I'll show you the way around. This is my office. It's also where I sleep.
This is the XO stateroom, which is mine. See that the whole thing is fairly small, but probably the second most luxurious place on the boat.
First off, you have my desk area where I do some of my work, paperwork. I try not to hang out here too much, try to get out in the ship and see what's going on.
I normally just use one rack, but we often have senior personnel ride us, you know, commanders and above, and when they ride us, typically they bunk with the XO because the captain's stateroom is his own, and that would never be, you know, you'd never displace a captain for a senior rider, even an admiral.
Bed folds down. It's about as plush as you can get on board a Los Angeles class submarine.
Have a sink that pops right out of the bulkhead. So you can wash up there.
I have various phone circuits at which the officer of the deck, either in control or on the bridge, can always get in contact with me. I have one of the speakers here is whenever we're at periscope depth, this will be on so I can hear the things that are going on in the control room.
And then the captain and I share this head, which has a shower in it and toilet.
Not the Taj Mahal, but it's as good as you can get on here, and it's certainly very easy to live with, better than anybody else on board has.
The junior officers and the enlisted men are forced to make do with a lot less.
This is one of the berthings on board the submarine. This is where the crew sleeps. We ain't got much space here, as you can see. It looks kind of like a coffin. Try not to sit up in bed too quick when the alarms sound. You get a nice headache.
This is what you've been calling home for the last 5 months.
Try to make space where we can.
All the luxuries of home. You got your pillow, your blanket, just the pictures of home.
Place we have to put our gear. About 4 inches of space underneath our mattresses.
Some of the racks have like another foot, depending on what they got overhead. You got all the cables and the wires running through the top of my rack. But get about another 8 inches out of it. That's it. Pull yourself up.
I told you.
Draw the curtain. Lights out. Time for bed.
At the bottom of the berthing rung are the most junior members of the crew, who have to share a bunk with other shipmates. These bunks are wedged into any free space in the torpedo room. They're called hot racks because when one crew member gets up to go to work, his bunk partner will be coming off watch to sleep in the already warm bed.
It's pretty amazing to be out here for this amount of time, and you got a totally different world than what you live in at home. At home, you get your freedoms and whatnot. Here, it's comparable to being in prison. I don't want to say it like that. It's not all bad like a prison, but it's compared to being in prison because your world stops. You have no outside contact except for the little noodles planners that we get. And we get our email from our computers.
A new addition to life on board a nuclear submarine is the ability of communicating to loved ones back home through email.
Our communications capabilities, as far as our ability to stay in contact with our families, is getting better.
Email has changed how you communicate within the submarine force. Before, we were limited to familygrams, which were 40 words, first word his name, last word my name, and it was fairly heavily screened.
We send it off out of the radio room, and Subplan puts it on the internet for us. So we get to send those pretty regularly. It's been cool, so you're not completely out of the loop with what your wife's doing at home.
It has made a tremendous difference. I have a whole binder full of letters. I printed them all out when I would get them from him, and I 3-hole punched them and stuck them in a binder, and it's like we've had this ongoing conversation, almost like by telephone.
It's not perfect, and it's not email like we know in the civilian life. It's a lower priority. If they have, say, only 15 seconds to be up and catch a message, email might not make it on that, and in that case, it's gone. So you number them, and you date them, so you know, okay, I missed number 5, and I missed number 8, and you can kind of catch up on those and resend them.
There's heavy black smoke in the machinery room.
One of the ways the crew on board a submarine is kept sharp in peacetime is through constant training exercises and drills. In this one, a fire is spreading throughout the sub, and the crew is expected to respond as if it were the real thing. Gray blankets are used to simulate smoke.
It's a two-level fire now. It's gone from the TG Luo Bay and spread on up. Now it's up in another level too. So we're gonna have to attack it with two different hose teams. Fire's the real big thing. It's the worst thing we can have. The whole compartment can fill up in about a minute with smoke back there. And within about a minute and a half, you can't see anything in front of you. It's a big thing.
Fire spread to interim upper level, port side. Ship is at periscope depth, preparing emergency ventilation to clear smoke from the machinery room.
Yes, I'm casting your one receiver.
They're taking the ship up to periscope depth, called emergency ventilating. As soon as the fire started, we cut off all air going back out. So 2/3 of the boat right now doesn't have any air going to it because the fire was back there. Shut all the ventilation, so there's no supply, no return coming out of there.
Ship is ready to emergency ventilate the engine room with a low-pressure blower.
To rid the submarine of smoke, the Pittsburgh must ascend to periscope depth. The snorkel induction mast, which is a large tube, is raised, and a fresh supply of breathable air ventilates the boat.
Range 1.5 divisions. High power, use 100-foot mast at height.
Secure ventilating.
Secure ventilating, it's open every guy.
While fresh air passes through to Pittsburgh, the danger is not yet over.
We wouldn't have full flow.
The narrow passageways may still be filled with smoke. The firefighting crew scans the area with a thermal imaging camera to locate any possible hotspots, small fires, or areas prone to flare-ups.
Heavy smoke? No, it's not heavy. It's light smoke because we got both fires out. Low level is slightly heavy down in the TG Luo Bay. Besides that, that's it. They want us to back up. Fire hose things already there. Alright.
The fire's out in the machinery room. There are no injured personnel and no hot spots.
Overhaul team's back, huh? Fire's been overhauled, man, in charge, right?
Oh, they did pretty good, actually. All the right immediate actions were taken, and biggest thing, they secured electrical power, so the power actually, the fire went out. Good training value.
If you don't have a fire out within about the first 90 seconds, you're in harm's way on board of a submarine. So what we teach is rapid response. What we teach in submarine warfare is that initial reaction doesn't get a second chance. So if you don't de-energize the power, or you don't just get the CO2 fire extinguisher on that fire and put it out, time's ticking.
I mean, the last thing that you want in a situation, in a crisis situation, is a bunch of people acting like it's a crisis.
Ordered at 500 feet, Captain. They're all done.
Helm right, 20 degrees rudder.
One of the drills a Los Angeles-class submarine crew practices is something they call angles and dangles. The purpose of these drills is to ensure that the hydraulics are working normally and all gear is properly stowed.
These drills verify that the ship's control party can handle high-speed evasive maneuvers, and they're fun. They break the monotony of the day. Not really fun. They basically keep the crew at a high state of readiness. Hello, how are you?
The submarine makes hard turns, deep dives, and quick ascents, turning something as simple as standing up straight into a challenge. As the sub dives into deeper water, you can hear the hull creaking from the strain and see the tension on a crewman's face.
Man battle station.
We have gained contact on the submarine. It's being tracked by sonar as Sierra 4. Intention is to close the submarine, engage with a single Mark 48 ADCAP torpedo. Carry on.
Careful battle stations.
Talk to Holy, sir.
Those are the Tomahawk missiles in the cans. The silver ones are Tomahawk missiles. The green ones are the torpedoes. Shoot Mark 48 ADCAPs.
Caution, do not attempt to move weapon of thought switch across shipping line unless dolly locking mechanisms are in lock position and dolly locking fingers are clear.
Locked on.
Locked on, all right. Stand caution. All right, clear forward.
Under simulated battle conditions, the Pittsburgh goes through the motions of firing a torpedo, but instead of the real thing, they fire what's called a water slug, an empty torpedo tube filled with seawater.
Good job on the approach and the shot. Looks like we did sink the enemy diesel submarine. We'll be remaining in the area to verify that we did get a good shot and that he is sunk.
A burst pipe could sink a sub within minutes, which is why all U.S. submariners go through extensive training at the U.S. Naval Submarine School in Groton, Connecticut. The basic program lasts about 5 weeks, during which a new enlistee is taught everything he can absorb about a nuclear submarine.
The windows that we have on our submarine are sonar windows. They're computer screens. The sound in the ocean hits a hydrophone. It's turned into electrical energy. That electrical energy is converted through computers into our display screens. That is our window.
Besides the classwork, the submarine school has state-of-the-art simulators to provide realistic battle condition training. In this submarine hull mock-up, different types of fires are simulated, and the students are trained to deal with them safely and quickly.
The most important part or aspect of the training program to become a submariner is the confidence it instills upon you. You're getting inside a sewer tube with both ends capped off, and you're going out to defend our coastal waters and out into the blue water. If any type of casualty occurs while on board, you need to be able to combat that casualty.
Some of the dangers that the submarine is up against when it's at sea, if it's in a hostile environment, obviously we're going to have maybe torpedoes coming at us, maybe being depth charged. All those things shaking and rocking the submarine could cause a failure of a nut and bolt, could cause any kind of failure to cause a major flooding.
Damage control is one of the most important aspects of a submariner's training. The Naval Submarine School is well equipped to teach the students how to handle flooding. It takes place in what they have nicknamed the Get Wet Trainer.
On a real live submarine, if they don't fix the ruptures, the submarine goes down, it sinks. Fortunately, we haven't had that. So in this situation, it builds their stress level up, builds their adrenaline up, and we see how they react in a crisis situation. What they have in the trainer is all they get. If they use it up, then there's no more and they don't succeed in stopping all the ruptures. There is no way that they should use everything and not get them fixed.
If this was actually what happened down there on a sub, we wouldn't have been around. But, I mean, that's basically what they teach you ever since you get in boot camp. You know, they teach you how to try and control yourself, and like I said, we pretty much didn't panic. I didn't see anybody panicking down there. We seemed to do pretty good. Then again, I couldn't see much.
The grade you got 89.5, but the collision armor sounded real good and file reports made was fine. Communications, everything was fine with the exception of additional personnel reports. You know, the A for maids. I'm not sure if that came through, but later on you asked for more people, and I took off 2 points. The man in charge, perfect. Get to him right out himself. Thank you.
Once you get out into the real world, it's not going to be fun and games. It's going to be, you're actually fighting for your life. Nothing works here without teamwork because, I was just saying, when a submarine goes out, the whole crew comes back or nobody does.
The commanding officer, USS Pittsburgh, takes pleasure in presenting the Silver Dolphins to machinist-mate fireman Marco A. Chapa.
Even in the midst of the Pittsburgh's rigorous work and training schedule, there is time for ceremony. Crewman Marco Chapa is getting his dolphin pin, a special moment in the tradition-bound and proud world of the submariner.
2 dolphins, one on each side of a conning tower of a submarine, and again, date back long ago with the Dolphin, you know, protecting the submarine, if you will, out at sea.
The following passage is from the 3rd War Patrol of the World War II U.S. submarine Tang, commanded by Commander Richard H. O'Kane. Tang's mission was to smash convoys in the East China and Yellow Seas. On the night of June 24th, convoy, 6 large ships, herded along by at least 16 escorts. O'Kane drove in on the surface, selected 2 targets, and fired 3 torpedo salvos at each. Explosions set fire to the night as the submarine went down to listen to depth charges, rushing propellers, and breaking up noises. Final checkup, made after the war, identified Tang's victims as 2 freighters and 2 passenger cargo men. Such is the stuff that submariners are made of, and today another one joins us.
We start with the very basics, administration, how the program works. With that, he walks around the ship and receives independent checkouts to teach him all the systems on the ship with enough knowledge that in the event there's a casualty, he might be able to help out.
You don't get your dolphins in sub school. You don't get your dolphins by sitting in a classroom. You get your dolphins by going to sea and going through the motions.
A seaman gets a year to qualify for his dolphin pin once he's begun serving on a submarine. The idea is they want everyone on board to have a working knowledge of the various engineering operations and weapons systems. Crewman Chapa qualified in 6 months. To do so, he had to pass his boards, a final examination.
Fireman Chapa, here at your board qualifying submarines. Are you ready?
I'll go ahead and get started here. Why don't you draw the Mimic bus, electric plant?
What's the name of this bus right here?
My favorite part about the job is the people. A guy comes to you pretty much new out of school, maybe 18, 19 years old, you know, volunteered to serve his country, to do a hard job, and to get him on board and to teach him and to let him grow and see the pride that builds when he gets his dolphins.
Submarine Qualification Certificate. Machinist Mate Fireman Marco A. Chapa. Having successfully completed the rigorous professional requirements for qualifications in submarines, having gained a thorough knowledge of submarine construction and operation, having demonstrated his reliability under stress, and having my full confidence and trust, I hereby certify that he is qualified in submarines, given the 16th day of June, 1999, on board USS Pittsburgh.
Machinist Mate, Fireman Marco Antonio Chapa, qualified submarine.
Sarcon coming to 500 feet.
Training doesn't stop with a dolphin pin. Officers and enlisted men alike are encouraged to qualify in virtually every aspect of the submarine's operation.
The extent of his knowledge compared to a typical surface warrior would be he's required to know about, you know, how to isolate hydraulics to a pump back aft, even if he was, let's say, a fire controlman that works only with electronics up in the forward portion of the ship. So yes, his knowledge level has to be significantly enhanced compared to our surface counterparts. And that doesn't mean that they know less than we do. It just means that, you know, if there's 128 of us on this 360-foot ship, you know, we have to be able to help each other out.
Sorry, guys. Make that 500 feet.
Here, Lieutenant J.G. Richards has been given control of the sub to gain valuable experience.
Lieutenant J.G. Richards is still not qualified officer to deck. He's in the process of qualifying. The guys that are qualifying have to get drills run on them as well, so that we have confidence that they're ready to actually stand the watch by the time we qualify them.
There's a lot of pressure on you, and part of the training is learning how to handle the pressure and not show that the pressure's getting you. Because if you get nervous, you get excited, or things like that, everybody else around you gets nervous and excited.
Helm all back emergency.
Right? Who's coming home tomorrow?
Daddy.
Can't hear you.
Daddy.
Okay, I heard you there.
I probably won't sleep tonight. Waking up tomorrow will be like the most excitingest thing. It's like a little kid going to an amusement park for the first time.
We got married 4 days before he left, so
We married 4 days, and I haven't seen him for 6 months, so Friday's going to be pretty exciting for us.
I'm edgy now. The kids are edgy now. We're excited. I mean, I was up till 2 in the morning last night pacing, going, okay, is this done? Is this done?
Got candles and making a nice romantic evening for us.
After 168 days at sea, the USS Pittsburgh is finally coming home. Groton, Connecticut is a small New England town where the USS Pittsburgh is based. It is also the Navy's nerve center for all attack submarines on the Atlantic Ocean. Family and friends of the crew have been anxiously awaiting today's homecoming, almost as much as the submariners themselves.
I'm going to get attacked when we get on the pier, but I can't wait. I've been waiting 5.5 months for it.
Well, it's been a long time, so I'm very excited.
There's nothing like a homecoming. There's no way to describe it.
Glad to be home. Been a long time. Groton, Connecticut, feeling good. A little cloudy, could be raining though.
4th of July and homecoming. Can't beat it. You gotta do it. You just gotta go all out.
When I see the boat, I just kind of freak out of my skin, and you know, it's just exciting. You forget all the heartache and all the anger and all the stuff that's made it miserable, and it's like seeing your baby for the first time.
It hits me the minute he steps off the boat and my kids run up screaming, "Daddy." I'm so looking forward to that. It's an indescribable feeling. There's our Kyle right up there.
He went out a boy and came back a man. And, it's particularly moving to see on this 4th of July weekend that he's up on top of the boat coming in and holding the flag. It was a very emotional time. I'm very proud of him.
Just pull in. Come on. Put the boat down. Give us our man.
Ready up.
I'm going first. I'm right behind you. Got my back? I got your back. We got this covered.
Our boat has traditionally done a raffle, where everybody gets a raffle ticket every time they come to a wives event, and they can also buy extra tickets. And at the end of the deployment, we do a drawing, and whoever's name is drawn gets the first kiss. Their husband gets to be the first one off the boat on the pier, and we get the first smooch, and I won. There he is. Hurry up. There's my hubby. Yep. I see him. He's right. You can't see his head. He's right.
Lips wet? Okay. You didn't get any taller? Lisa, you still down there? You got that. Elbow. He's my foot in my neck.
Okay, my turn.
No.
Why not?
I'm just going home. I'll meet up with my friends later on tonight. We'll go out.
The last time I saw him, he was just in a little bassinet, and here he is, grown into a little boy.
Still nothing.
It's been nice being real, but I'm out of here.
Yeah, what are you guys doing?
Going home. I'm with my daughter. Yeah, where's my Junior? Come on, Junior, let's get out of here.
I found him.
It's just good to be home.
Very good. Very excited. Ready to attempt being married here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all of it. That's right. We are.
Well, my legs are done hurting.
Go get him. What are you doing?
How you doing?
Oh,